3 weeks on from our last race action, the 2026 Motul FIM Superbike World Championship has trucked 2,600 kilometres northeast from Portugal, crossing 3 borders to the Netherlands. Legendary in the motorcycling community, the town of Assen, a 2-hour drive from capital Amsterdam, hosts the 34th edition of the Pirelli Dutch Rounds. No less than 71 World SBK races have taken place at the TT Circuit Assen, placing it only second to Phillip Island. Since it debuted on our calendar in 1992, we've only failed to visit during the pandemic. Nicknamed the Cathedral of Speed, with less than a third of the lap here spent on the brakes, that does make it a tricky place to pass. On the start-finish straight, for example, no sooner have the riders reached 270 kph, they're braking for turn 1, with only a 190-metre stopping distance to make a move. Top speeds are reached between turns 5 and 6, where Andrea Locatelli and Nicolo Bulega battled for the lead in race 1 last year. Turn 8 also presents an opportunity, but only 2 seconds are spent on the brakes. It's only 10 metres wide through there. Our latest race here was won with a pass at the Geert Timmer curve. Turn 16, Andrea Locatelli taking his first career victory with a pass on Alvaro Bautista. Wet conditions in the Superpole race last year, so the current lap record was set on the medium SC0 tyre by Nicolo Bulega in race 1 of the 2025 Dutch Rounds. Eight different riders on the podium already this season, but only one race winner. While his rivals take points from one another, Nicolo Bulega is unbeaten from 6 races for a maximum score of 124. 56 points ahead of his nearest rival, the biggest ever championship lead at this stage of the season, just 2 rounds in. And there are more records in his sights. This weekend he could equal World SBK's record 13 race winning run. So far, his average winning margin has been over 4 seconds per race. He's going to take some catching. Alex Raby and Steve English for race 1 of the 2026 Pirelli Dutch Round. And Steve, both Bulega's pace advantage here in Assen last year and his absolute control of all 6 races in 2026 so far suggest another clean sweep could well be on the cards this weekend.
Yeah, certainly that's what we're expecting here this weekend, but you never know what's going to happen here in Assen, and particularly with the weather conditions we've had. We've already seen the World WCO race have spots of rain. We saw the Supersport race have the same, but the forecast has always been around about 3 o'clock is when the rain was going to come here today. That's right around Superbike time. Nicolo
Bulega has remained in top spot throughout this season, but we've had 2 very different rounds in the battle for silver. The Ducatis of Jari Montella, Lorenzo Baldassari and Alvaro Bautista all made the podium in Phillip Island, while in Portimao, Iker Lecuona was the second highest scorer, finishing directly behind Nicolo Bulega in all 3 races to move second in the standings. 3 podiums for Bimota at the Australian round, 2 for Axel Bassani that still leave him 3rd overall, while BMW claimed 3 at the Portuguese round through Miguel Oliveira, who moves up to 4th on points. Alex and Sam Lowes rounding out your top 6. 8 podium finishes, as I said already, in just 2 completed rounds this season. There were only 9 in the whole of last year, but there has only been 1 winner, Nicolo Bulega, with the last 4 victories of 2025 and the first 6 of this season, becoming only the 4th rider in history to reach 10 consecutive wins. The last 3 to manage it are our last 3 world champions, Jonathan Rea, Alvaro Bautista and Toprak Razgatlioglu, so Bulega already in exalted company. His winning margins, Steve, were a little narrower in Portimao, it must be said, but still led every lap of the weekend in another faultless display.
Yeah, it really was perfect from Bulega to start this season with those 2 rounds. Assen obviously a little bit different. The challenge around here is that the group can stay a little bit closer, even on superbikes, but ultimately Bulega has a little bit of an edge over everyone. He does have that 10th or 2 in his pocket anytime he wants it, but we'll wait and see whether or not he's able to take full advantage of it.
Pole position, as you can see on your screen, by a 0.3 of a second margin in Superpole earlier on today. First stint, it was pretty evenly matched between him and Iker Lecuona as both riders put in their banker laps, but the second stint, Bulega kicks it up a gear and beats the lap record by 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, and the other factor as well is Bulega spent all of yesterday only using 2 sets of tyres compared to a lot of the other riders using an extra set, so he's been built for the race as well this weekend.
Nicolo Bulega, though, one mark against his card, which was the second lap of his final stint, the last lap of the Superpole session. He came to grief, thankfully unhurt, straight back up to his feet, but a little bit of damaged pride, perhaps. It's the first blot on his copybook this season.
Yeah, ultimately for Bulega, no reason to think too much about it. It's a turn one crash here in Assen. It ended up where not too much damage done to the bike, not too much damage done to himself, so I'm sure he'll be able to put that firmly aside whenever he makes his way onto the grid.
Well, his fans certainly with plenty to cheer so far. 6 wins out of 6 and a maximum 124-point score. His teammate Ika Lekwona with 3 second places last time out, returning to the podium for the first time in 33 race starts dating back to Estoril 2024. The best score of his 47-round career, 49 points for 3 second places behind his teammate at the Portuguese round. The smallest losing margin to Bulega this season in the Superpole race, and the fastest lap of race 2. The only time Bulega has been beaten by any metric in 2026. So great performance from Lekwona last time out.
Yeah, Iker scored points in every race, and coming into this season, the big thing was always going to be, what's his consistency going to be like? Well, through the first 2 rounds of the year, he hasn't made many mistakes. He had a crash in practice in Portimao, but other than that, he's been very consistent, and Portimao showed that he's got the ability to back up Bulega. He needs to do that week in, week out.
Up on the front row of the grid, so third consecutive round in 2026. We've had a Ducati 1, 2, 3. They are very much the bikes to beat.
Yeah, and the brand new for 2026 machine has already shown that it's a step forward compared to what they had in the past, but also, everyone else needs to try and raise their game and see if they're able to fight against them.
3-1-2 finishes last time out for the Aruba IT factory Ducati. And once again, at the first checkpoint of 2026, checkpoint sees the Ducatis lose a little bit in terms of their fuel flow. The surprise there, Bimota lose a little bit as well.
Yeah, Bimota was a surprise because they're a bike that obviously they've had good results. Phillip Island with 3 podiums between their 2 riders. Alex Lowe's with 3 fourth place finishes last time out. So it shows that the bike is working really well. But I think for a lot of teams up and down the pit lane, they were a bit surprised to see Bimota pinged with a fuel flow penalty. Ultimately, what we've seen is that first step hasn't tended to make a big impact on anyone really up until now. Maybe for the Bimota it makes more of an impact than it did for BMW or Ducati, just because they're already down on top speed.
Yes, much of that comes from the opening round of the season where they had those 3 podiums. Axel Bassani currently 3rd, Alex Lowe's 5th overall. Only 18 points at the Portuguese round last time out for Axel Bassani, 3 8th places, but still better than any score he managed last season. Bimota, particularly Bassani, have made another step forward. The Italian posting a career best 42-point tally at the Australian round in February.
Yeah, and for those first 2 rounds, plenty of reasons for Bassani and his crew to be full of optimism. Today's a little bit different. He starts in the 6th row of the grid. This is where he was qualifying on his bad weekends last year, and this is where he needs to make sure he doesn't do that this season. So hopefully for Bassani, he's able to make some progress early in this race, and then you put those Superpole results behind you, and you make sure that for the rest of the season you're qualifying on the front 4 rows of the grid.
Yeah, has always been an inconsistent qualifier, but might prove costly today, and particularly in tomorrow's Tissot Superpole race. Behind Bassani in the championship, currently 4th overall, is Miguel Oliveira, and he too is a little bit further back on the grid than you might have anticipated. Oliveira, who delighted the home crowd last time out, the first ever Portuguese rider on the podium in 20 stagings of the Portuguese round, first Portuguese rider on any World SBK podium since Alex Vieira in September 1989. On the back foot compared to the factory Ducatis the longer the races went on, but BMW was certainly delighted with those 3 third places in Portimao.
Yeah, and ultimately for Oliveira, he's 0.4 of a second slower than his teammate Petrucci. Petrucci qualifies on the 2nd row of the grid in 4th spot, and Oliveira is 13th on the grid. It shows you just how close it is in World SBK.
Xavi Vierque matched the best Superpole result of his career this morning with P5, the 3rd consecutive round that he's qualified as top Yamaha. Manufacturer's top scorer at the Portuguese round with 15 points. It was 6th in race 1, 7th in the Superpole race, and he has certainly hit the ground running following his move to Honda. Sam Lowes here made a successful return from a broken hand and wrist sustained in Phillip Island with 3 5th places in Portimao. His best scoring weekend since Most last year, currently 6th overall. Remember, finished last season in 8th. 43 points from 2 rounds, his best start to a World SBK campaign.
Yeah, for Sam, obviously that crash in Phillip Island that left him with the injuries, it was really important for him to be able to come back last time out and come away with 3 top 5 finishes. Showed a lot of resiliency, and then into this weekend, qualifies in the middle of the front row of the grid, gives himself an opportunity, not just for today's race, but especially for tomorrow's Superpole race, to be in the mix.
Riders making their way out onto track then with 5 minutes until pit lane closes. Unfortunately, we are one rider down. It's a 22-rider field here. And again, it's more misfortune for Honda. Somkiat Chantra crashing out in free practice 3 earlier on today, bruising to his lower back and thigh. And this is the reason why. Gets caught up with the bike when he goes down. He's ruled out of contention today. He will be checked again by the medical team tomorrow morning before the first action of the day, where they'll make a decision as to whether he can take any further part in this Dutch round.
Yeah, strange crash there for Chantra, and ultimately the last thing that Honda need. And when you look at the fact that Jake Dixon, very uncertain if he's going to be back on the bike in Hungary, and for Jonathan Rea, for the other potential replacement riders as well, they want to make sure that they've got the race riders back there as soon as possible.
Pirelli have brought their medium tyre allocation for Assen, just as in Portimao, but that's a departure from the 2025 Dutch round, when we did have the Q tyre and the super soft SCX tyre was the fastest race tyre. This weekend that will only be available for the Superpole race tomorrow morning. 2 soft tyres to choose from this season, the standard SC0 and the development FO298, which has been brought for the first time with the target of improving stability and consistency over a race duration. But the main story, the slightly harder allocation compared to the visit here a year ago.
Yeah, and it is going to be something that has a bit of an impact, particularly whenever we've got the cooler temperatures today. We've got 21 degrees track temperature. We saw the flags there for some of the fans, and it is windy as well. There's the threat of rain, so different conditions certainly to what we had last year. You would be looking for that softer tyre potentially.
Nicolo Bulega is the first rider to have been on pole for the first 3 rounds of the season consecutively since Jonathan Rea in 2021. Rea went on to a record 8 in a row. Bulega is now on 4 in succession. A 0.3 of a second margin for him over Sam Lowes this morning, beating Lowes' lap record set for pole here last season, his 7th career front row start. Back-to-back front row starts for the first time in World SBK for Nicolo Bulega, the 3rd consecutive Ducati front row lockout.
Yeah, and ominous for the rest of the field whenever you see what Ducati were able to do. We obviously saw at the opening round here in Phillip Island. That was a circuit that played to the strengths of the V4R. This is also one that plays to their strengths. That's why they got the front row all to themselves. Bautista qualifying well on the 3rd row of the grid, one of his better performances in a Superpole session. Also an indicator of that. Impressive from Baldassarri to be up there in the 3rd row on the number 34 machine. Big performance by him as well to do that, because he needs to show that those opening couple of rounds where he was up there in those leading positions on the grid weren't a fluke, and he's been able to certainly prove that today.
Look, Bulega, Sam Lowes and Nicolo Bulega have been the fastest trio throughout free practice. If anyone's going to get up and challenge them, who might it be? Nobody.
Ultimately, yeah, because you're waiting to see if anyone's able to spring a surprise. Petrucci on the BMW, you'd be surprised if that bike's able to make it last over the course of a full 21 lap race. Xavi Vierge has been really impressive, but typically the Yamaha's not a bike that you want to see with that harder tyre, so Vierge is riding really well. But there's question marks about a lot of other rider combinations out there. Bimoda with Alex Lowes on the 2nd row of the grid. I think the top 5s are the ultimate target for that team in this race. Maybe in the Superpole race it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's one where the early laps Alex Lowes might be able to go. The second half of the race, maybe Alvaro Bautista makes a bit of progress, but Bulega, Sam Lowes, Nicolo Bulega, they've had the long run pace, and particularly Bulega, far faster than anyone else through free practice yesterday, as he looks to keep up his winning run and blot out memories of our last visit to Assen, of course. It was a double retirement on day 2 here last year that ultimately cost him the title, but Nicolo Bulega has been a podium finisher in each of his 2 appearances at the Dutch round and was the race 1 winner here a year ago.
Yeah, that little bit of unfinished business for him, but I think that's one of those factors that Nico's not thinking about at this stage. He's just trying to make sure he's able to keep his winning run going, and new set of leathers on from there, so just making himself comfortable in them. That's after the crash in this morning's Superpole session.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be thinking about the unfinished business either, but we've got to find some story, and Nicolo Bulega has otherwise been absolutely untouchable.
I'd say Ducati suppliers are thinking about it.
Sam Lowes, 2nd on the grid, has been a podium finisher here in Supersport and Moto2. The best result of his first World SBK campaign was here at the Dutch round, a 6th place, and he took his first podium here with 2nd in the Superpole race in April last year. Chasing his first podium of this season, but here in Assen you wouldn't bet against it.
No, I think that for what we've been able to see from Sam so far this season, he's been able to show a lot of consistency and the ability to almost take a step back and make sure he's able to consolidate his pace. That's a big step for him this year.
Nicolo Bulega secured the first podium of his career here in Assen back in 2022. He then waited 2.5 years for his next at the 2024 Estoril round. 2 rostrum finishes in 4 years with Honda, 3 in just his second weekend with Ducati. All second places. He sits second in the standings.
Yeah, Nico's got a lot of confidence right now as well, and he's certainly been able to bring that to Portimao and then carry it forward into this weekend. The opening round of the year was definitely one of those things where you looked at it and you thought, how's this going to play out for Iker? Will he answer back in Portimao? And hopefully for him, he's able to just consolidate that this weekend and show that consistency, because that's the one thing that has always been lacking for Iker whenever he was on the Honda.
Second row of the grid for Danilo Petrucci, Xavi Vierque and Alex Lowe's. You can see plenty of activity on the grid here in Assen, and as always in the grandstands. There is Petrucci, always likes to be one of the last riders onto the grid. That's just a part of his pre-race ritual.
Yeah, and everyone's got their routines beforehand, and he did a great job in the Superpole session to get himself up onto that second row of the grid.
So we skip Petrucci and on with Xavi Vierque. 3 crashes in 2 rounds for him. Still adapting to Yamaha machinery, of course, but crashed out of 7th in race 2 of the Portuguese round, and he'll be optimistic of challenging in the top 8 again here. The TT circuit has traditionally been among the stronger venues for the blue bikes, and Vierque was 6th here last year on the Honda.
Yeah, and he'll certainly be hoping not to be rolling and tumbling around here, but Vierque, he's been good this season. Obviously the Phillip Island instance, the crashes, it's a lot for him and for Yamaha, and then the crash in race 2 as well in Portimao, but he's been the fastest Yamaha rider all season.
Here is Danilo Petrucci, had more points to his name after his first 2 rounds in World SBK 3 years ago than he does after his first 2 rounds on the BMW. Top 10 finishes, the most he's been able to manage this season. Podium finisher at 8 different venues. Bronze medal contender for much of last year, but he sits just 8th at present.
Yeah, and for Petrucci, you have to think that the change to the BMW has been difficult, but Superpole in Australia, Superpole here today, were really impressive and shows that there is something there for him on the BMW.
And completing the second row of the grid in P6, Alex Lowe's, track specialist here in Assen, secured the first podium of his World SBK career in Assen on a Suzuki. Also a rostrum finisher at the 2024 Dutch round on the Kawasaki. 6th, his best result of 3 races here on the Bimota, but that package has come a long way since then. He was only 19 points to his name this time last year. He's on 48 after 2 rounds this season. That completes your front 2 rows of the grid. Dave Goddard, down to you.
Yes, I've got Xavi Vierque with me. Xavi, excellent Superpole for you earlier. The Yamaha improving all the time.
Yeah, since I arrived in that track, everyone knows us. It's a track that the Yamaha is always working very, very good, so we need to take the opportunity to make a solid job, and we are on a good spot to try to fight for a good position.
Thank you, Xavi. Good luck.
Thank you.
5th position on the grid then for Xavi Vierque, the middle of the second row. Top Yamaha once again for the 3rd time this season in Superpole. And Danilo Petrucci with a good Superpole effort lines up in P4. 3rd row of the grid then with Alvaro Bautista, Andrea Locatelli and Lorenzo Baldassari. A very disappointing start to this season for Bautista. Had more points after his first 2 rounds with Honda in 2020 than he has after 2 weekends on the Barney Ducati. More worryingly than the crashes, he's had 1 at each round. His lack of pace in Portimao, only 9th in the first 2 races, and he didn't appear to have much more to offer than that. So he'll be looking for a big turnaround here. Does have a strong record in Assen, 7 race wins here in all. He went unbeaten in the 2019 and 2023 Dutch rounds. 8th on the grid for Andrea Locatelli, his worst ever start to a World SBK season. Even in his rookie season, he had 30 points from the first 2 rounds. Only 25 points and just 2 top 10 finishes to his name so far in 2026. A 5th place in tricky conditions in Phillip Island and a 9th in race 2 of the Portuguese round. His best of the weekend there. Famously secured his first and so far only career win in Assen a year ago in what was his 154th race start, passing Alvaro Bautista and taking advantage of Nicolo Bulega's dramatic retirement. Lorenzo Baldassari struggled with arm pump in Portimao from the start of the weekend, contemplated pulling out actually during race 1 before battling on to P11, but that's the only time he's finished outside of the top 10 this season. He ended the weekend there on a high, past Locatelli and later Bassani for 6th in race 2.
Yeah, certainly, and when you look at what he's been able to do this season, another rider that's been able to exceed expectations, and really solid effort at this stage.
Yeah, Lorenzo Baldassarri completing the third row of the grid. On row 4, we've got Remy Gardner from P10. Bit of a sluggish start to the season. Comprehensible, given he started the year with a broken arm and dislocated shoulder. But gradually improved in Portimao, first top 10 of the season in race 2. Now coming into his best circuit of the season, where he's taken a career best third place in each of the last 2 visits, hoping to kickstart this campaign.
Yeah, a few people within Yamaha saying that they've been able to find some of the issues that have been affecting Locatelli and Gardner. That's why we've got 3 Yamahas up inside the top 10, so good from the boys in blue.
Tommy Bridewell, P11, his best Superpole result in 10 World SBK appearances. His previous best P16 in 2019. Qualified 20th in Portimao, walked away with 3 points from race 2. This will be his first Dutch round, but 9 appearances at the TT circuit in the British Championship, including 3 podiums here.
Yeah, it qualifies Montella, Mackenzie and Sura on the Ducati, so decent effort there by the Advocates Racing bike.
Completing row number 4, Jari Montella crashed the most of anyone in World SBK last season. 15 recorded incidents, has crashed 3 times in the last 4 races, twice from second place, squandering some big points. He's proven his pace with a podium in Phillip Island. Now he needs to prove he can be a consistent finisher. Needs a clean weekend here in Assen.
Really does, and for Jari, this was always going to be a benchmark for him for where he can be after those 2 front rows to start the season.
Miguel Oliveira, P13. 5th place 5 years ago. The best of his 6 Dutch Grand Prix in the MotoGP class. Was also a race winner here in Moto3. BMW have had only 2 wins in Assen in World SBK. Hasn't been the best of venues for BMW over the last couple of years.
This was their toughest race last year for Toprak in particular at the front of the field. He really struggled to manage the tyre, and with Petrucci up there in the second row of the grid, Oliveira is only 0.4 of a second slower than him, but he's got a lot of work to do to catch up to him.
Different tyre allocation, of course, in the 2026 Dutch round. As we continue on through row number 5, Taz Mackenzie here posted his best finish of 2024 here with 11th, recorded his first top 10 finish in World SBK at the 2025 Dutch round, capitalised on mixed conditions, did the same in race 2 of this year's Australian round to finish 4th, but otherwise he's battled just outside the top 10 so far.
Did a good long run yesterday as well, Mackenzie, but in the Superpole session I think he'll be a bit disappointed to be down there in the 5th row of the grid. A couple of tenths of a second brings you up onto the 3rd row, so there's not a lot in it, but it feels a lot different if you're outside the top 10. But Taz has done the hard work so far this weekend to make sure he knows what to expect in the races.
Completing row number 5, Alberto Sura, making his first visit to Assen since the 2022 Dutch Moto3 Grand Prix. Impressed with an 11-point score at the Australian round, but the Portuguese round a bit more of a reality check. 15th in race 1 for his only point of the weekend, although he was set to score again before crashing out of race 2.
Yeah, and certainly for Sura, we've been able to see that he's adapted okay to that bike. Anytime that we see him able to get himself close to the front, that's also where you're able to see just where the Ducatis are very strong. So if he gets close to the top 10, always a good indicator of that.
He completes row number 5. Row 6, we've got Garrett Gerloff, Axel Bassani and Jonathan Ray. Row 7, Bahattin Sofoglu, Stefano Manzi and Mattia Ratto. And then Twan Schmitz completing our 22 rider field. This is Garrett Gerloff, 6th place, his previous best here in Assen. Repeating that, of course, stretch target this weekend. He was 6th in the Superpole race at the Australian round, battled for 6th again in race 1 of the Portuguese round before losing out late on to Xavi Vierque. Failed to score on Sunday in Portimao after a race 2 crash from 9th, but it has been a promising start to the campaign for him.
Yeah, it has. He's had 3 top 10 finishes, so exactly what you want to see from Gerloff on the Kawasaki. A big step forward compared to last year, and he needs to maintain that over the course of the next couple of months. The one thing for him is, from that 6th row of the grid, it's about trying to give yourself that top 12 finish. If you can do that, it's a good return in this race.
Axel Bassani, the 2023 Dutch round, his best at this venue to date. 2 5th places and a 6th on the Ducati. Also managed a 5th place on the Bimota here last year. It was his best result of 2025. Already a double podium finisher in Phillip Island in February. Sits 3rd overall this season so far.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the big things that's going to leave him a little bit disappointed. Last year he qualified 4th here in Assen. Now he's all the way down on that 6th row of the grid. So for Axel, a lot of work to do in this one.
Jonathan Ray making his 2nd appearance of the season as a stand-in for Jake Dixon. Ironically missed the Portuguese and Dutch rounds last year, so making up for that. Confirmed in his vlog that he'll be a wild card in Donington Park as well. So certainly a lot busier than he originally intended when he retired from full-time racing at the end of last season.
Yeah, Johnny's going to be with the development team for that wild card, so he'll be with his own crew from the test crew. So that's going to make a big difference for him as well.
Bahattin Sofoglu, P19, scored 7 points in the first 2 rounds of last season. Just a single point so far in 2026 from race 2 of the Australian round. Crashed out of both Sunday races in Portimao. Still comfortably the top performer for Moto X, having already dispatched the likes of Tito Rabat and Michael Ruben Rinaldi as teammates last year. Manzi, Ratto and Schmitz complete the field. Back down to you on the grid, Dave.
Yes, I've got BMW team boss Sean Muir with me. Sean, mixed fortunes for your riders in Superpole. A great lap for Danilo Petrucci, but Miguel Oliveira struggling a bit.
It looks like he's struggling, but in realistic terms, from where we were yesterday, he has made a big step forward overnight, and well played by the full crew there. I'm really happy with what he did overnight. FP3 was a big step for him. It just, unfortunately, just one of them qualifyings. He didn't get a clean run. Both exits, and it just set us back a little bit, really. But he's 0.3 behind Danilo. Danilo's in 4th and he's in 13th, so I think he's got good race pace, and I think the tyre will come to him. So let's just get some experience on our belt.
Sean Muir, thanks for your time. Good luck for the race.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Making our way then through to the back of the grid with Mattia Ratto. Signed from relative obscurity this season. 2 podiums in 50 starts in the Moto2 European Championship. Strong 2025, though, in the Italian Supersport Championship. Still chasing his first points in World SBK and completing the field, making his debut in the Superbike World Championship this season for Team Aprico. It's the Moto Euro regular Twan Schmidt. Started the weekend pretty well, actually, on Friday in free practice.
Yeah, a couple of crashes, though, and he's at the back of the field here in the Superpole session, but had actually been faster than some of the other Yamahas, so decent effort from him coming in.
Back to the front row of the grid, and it's a Ducati front row lockout for the 3rd consecutive round this season. These are the 3 men to beat. 3rd place, Iker Lecuona. 2nd on the grid for Sam Lowe's, chasing his first podium of the campaign, and Nicolo Bulega targeting his 3rd consecutive hat-trick in 2026. The 2025 Dutch round cost Nicolo Bulega a world title. Bulega led the standings by 29 points, arriving in Assen last April, and looked set to dominate proceedings, leading every lap of race 1, setting the fastest lap and winning by almost 8 seconds. But he stopped in both races the following day with electrical problems, 2 retirements that cost him at least 32 points. Remember, he eventually lost the championship by just 13. This season, he arrives at the TT circuit unbeaten with a 56-point lead on almost double the score of his nearest rival. But our last visit here serves as a reminder of just how quickly things can change. Alex Raby and Steve English for race 1 of the 2026 Pirelli Dutch round. Steve, this weekend feels especially significant as it was such a turning point last year, and because Bulega and Ducati will be chasing some redemption at this venue.
Yeah, it was the racing gods worked against them last year with reliability issues. I tell you what, it could be the weather gods today. Look at that sky here. It's dark, it's grey, it's a bit dirty across the track, and that's going to cause a little bit of stress for the riders out there. We've already seen spots of rain in WCR. We saw spots of rain in the Supersport race around about an hour ago. And the Superbike riders, they know that it could well happen for them as well. So everyone needs to be a little bit on guard for that over the course of the next 40 minutes.
Look into the history books here in Assen. We had 3 different winners here last year. Nicolo Bulega, certainly the fastest man all weekend. But Toprak Razgatioglu benefited from conditions to win the Superpole race. And Bulega then famously retired from the lead in race 2, with Andrea Locatelli picking up his first career win. Circuit record holder Jonathan Ray on the grid this weekend. 17 victories, the most for any rider at any World SBK venue. 5 ahead of Carl Fogarty on 12. Alvaro Bautista is a 7 times race winner here. Bautista will be trying to come through from the 3rd row of the grid in P7. There he is. Alongside him, Andrea Locatelli and Lorenzo Baldassari. But the man that, or the men that Bautista has to try to catch have been the pace setters all weekend long. Bulega, Sam Lowe's and Iker Lecuona on the front row.
Yeah, that 2nd row of Petrucci, Javi Vierge and Alex Lowe's going to be interesting on the opening lap. All of them able to make up positions off the line, but do they have the pace to be able to go with the Ducatis at the front? Bautista from the 3rd row, always vulnerable off the start. He needs to make a good start and give himself the chance to make progress right from the start of this race.
Yeah, key one of the key riders actually in the battle here, Alvaro Bautista, starting P7.
Yeah, turn 1, turn 5, they're the key places to keep an eye out for on the opening lap as well. That's where you can have instance.
Nicolo Bulega unbeaten on 124 points, 56 clear of his nearest rival, his teammate Iker Lecuona, who took 3 second places last time out in Portugal. Axel Bassani with 2 podiums from day 2 in Phillip Island sits third and 64 points back from top spot. Oliveira, Alex and Sam Lowes rounding out your top 6. Here's race 1.